Hey beautiful, have you considered subscribing to our channel? It helps us make quality content for you. Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers.
You're joking, right? That's the fearsome human armada we're supposed to be worried about. First Admiral Kazoth's secondary breathing sacs wheezed with barely contained laughter as he gestured at the tactical display with one of his lesser appendages. I've seen more intimidating dust clouds in the Omega sector. The intelligence officer, a young Vraxian named Talara, maintained her professional composure despite her superior's dismissive attitude. Her crystalline exoskeleton shifted through shades of concerned violet as she double-checked the readings. Sir, I must insist you examine the energy signatures more closely. These readings are unprecedented. Unprecedented? Kazoth's primary eyes rolled dramatically while his secondary set remained fixed on the holographic display. The entire fleet could fit inside one of our capital ship's maintenance bays. What are they planning to do? Scratch our paint? The massive bridge of the Vraxian flagship Eternal Dominion hummed with nervous energy as other officers tried, and failed, to suppress their own amusement. The tactical display showed what appeared to be an absurdly small collection of vessels, barely visible against the backdrop of the Orion Nebula. By Vraxian standards, they looked more like escape pods than proper warships. Sir? Talara persisted, her voice taking on an edge that finally caught Kazoth's attention. These vessels are utilizing some form of spatial compression technology we've never encountered before. The mass readings, they simply don't align with their visible dimensions. Impossible, Kazoth declared, but there was a note of uncertainty in his voice now. Our sensors must be malfunctioning. No species has managed to crack reliable spatial compression. The energy requirements alone would... The tactical officer's sudden gasp cut through the bridge's atmosphere like a plasma blade. Sir, the human vessels, they're unfolding. The holographic display flickered as it struggled to keep up with the rapidly changing situation. What had appeared to be a tiny flotilla of perhaps dozens ships was expanding, unfolding, transforming. Where there had been seemingly modest vessels, massive war platforms now bloomed like deadly flowers in space. Sections of hull that had been tucked away in impossible geometries unfurled into kilometer-long weapon arrays. Hangar bays that should not have existed emerged from recursive space-time pockets, disgorging swarms of fighters that had been stored in spaces that defied conventional physics. By the first egg, Kazoth whispered, all four eyes now wide with disbelief. They've weaponized topology. Actually, a new voice crackled through the bridge's comm system, carrying an infuriatingly casual human accent. We just figured out how to make really good space origami. You should see what we can do with a paper crane. The tactical display was now showing energy readings that made Kazoth's exoskeleton itch. Each human vessel had effectively multiplied its mass and volume by factors that shouldn't have been possible outside of theoretical physics discussions. What had appeared to be a laughably small fleet was now a force that dwarfed the Vraxian armada. Kazoth's command chair suddenly felt very uncomfortable as he watched more impossible geometries unfold before his eyes. A ship that had appeared no larger than a standard shuttle was now revealing itself to be a massive carrier, its hull seeming to endlessly emerge from within itself like some sort of cosmic magic trick. This is impossible, one of his science officers muttered, frantically trying to make sense of the sensor readings. They're somehow maintaining stable Einstein-Rosen bridges inside their hull structures. The power requirements alone should... Oh, that? Captain Drake's voice carried what the Vraxians would later learn was the human emotion of smugness. Turns out the universe doesn't really care much about what you think is impossible. We just got tired of trying to build bigger ships, so we decided to make small ships that could be big when they needed to be. Save on parking fees, you know? The bridge crew watched in horrified fascination as the human vessels continued their impossible transformation. What had started as an apparently insignificant force now filled the tactical display with enough firepower to give pause to any military strategist in the known galaxy. Now, Drake continued, about those colonies you've been harassing. We could do this the hard way, which would involve me having to explain to my superiors why I had to unfold the really interesting parts of my ship. Or we could do this the easy way, which involves you taking your fleet, turning around and pretending you never heard of this sector of space. Kazoth's secondary breathing sacs were no longer wheezing with laughter. In fact, they weren't working at all as he struggled to process what he was seeing. The tactical display was now showing weapon systems emerging from spaces that shouldn't exist. Energy readings that made mockery of known physics, and enough firepower to reduce his entire fleet to its constituent atoms. Kazoth struggled to maintain his diplomatic composure. Perhaps we should discuss terms for a peaceful resolution? Wonderful idea. Drake's voice practically bounced with cheerfulness. I just love it when we can solve things through dialogue. Though I should mention that my first officer is really hoping you'll choose the hard way. He's got this bet going with engineering about whether we can fold a dreadnought into a shape with exactly 4 dimensions. And honestly, I'm kind of curious myself. The Vraxian admiral looked at his tactical display one more time, watching as yet another human vessel casually violated several laws of physics by unfolding into what appeared to be a geometric impossibility, bristling with weapon systems. He thought about his prestigious military career, his numerous victories, and his carefully maintained reputation for strategic brilliance. Then he thought about trying to explain to the High Command how he lost an entire fleet to ships that treated space-time like an arts and crafts project. We accept your terms for peaceful resolution, Kazoth announced, trying to ignore the way his exoskeleton had shifted to an embarrassing shade of defeat purple. Excellent choice, Captain Drake responded, though I have to say, I'm a tiny bit disappointed. Do you have any idea how long it took us to figure out how to fold a particle cannon into 11 dimensions? The paperwork alone was a nightmare. As the Vraxian fleet began its humiliating withdrawal, Kazoth couldn't help but overhear one of his junior officers muttering something that would soon become famous throughout the galaxy. No wonder humans never built bigger ships. They were too busy figuring out how to make small ones that could tell geometry to go fuck itself. The retreating Vraxian vessels maintained strict communication silence, broken only once by an unauthorized transmission from a young maintenance technician. Wait until the hive mind hears about this. They're going to be so mad they didn't think of it first. Back on the bridge of the Mobius, Captain Alexandra Drake leaned back in her command chair with a satisfied smile. Navigation, once they're clear of the sector, plot a course back to Starbase 47. And someone please tell Dr. Patel in engineering that she owes me 20 credits. I told her we could scare them off without having to unfold the quantum origami arrays. Her first officer, Commander James Martinez, looked up from his station with a grin. You think they bought that bit about the 11-dimensional particle cannon? Does it matter? Drake shrugged. By this time tomorrow, half the galaxy will be convinced we can fold battleships into pocket dimensions, and the other half will be trying to figure out how we did it. Let them waste their time trying to reverse engineer something we made up. But sir, her young tactical officer interjected, wasn't that kind of dishonest? Drake's smile took on a decidedly mischievous quality. Ensign, the first rule of human military strategy. If you can't actually build something impossible, the next best thing is convincing everyone else that you already have. And the second rule? The ensign asked. Never let anyone know that your secret superweapon is really just a really good light show, and a whole lot of bullshit. She paused thoughtfully. Though I have to admit, Dr. Patel's work with holographic field projection has really come a long way. Did you see how many of them started molting when we unfolded the third wave? As the Mobius and her small fleet of very ordinary, very non-space folding ships headed for home, the story of their encounter was already spreading through subspace channels. By the time they reached Starbase 47, 3 different species had submitted formal peace treaties, 2 had requested technology sharing agreements, and 1 had apparently decided to abandon space travel altogether. And somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of the Earth Federation's military command, a very confused requisitions officer was trying to figure out why she had just received 17 urgent requests for space origami research funding. Commander Martinez looked over the incoming communications with amusement. You know they're going to figure it out eventually, right? Maybe, Drake agreed. But by then, they'll be so worried about what else we might have made up that they won't dare call our bluff. She settled more comfortably into her chair. Besides, sometimes the best weapon isn't the one you have. It's the one everyone thinks you have. And the quantum origami arrays? Oh, those are completely real, Drake said with a perfectly straight face. They're just folded so well right now that even we can't find them. The bridge crew's laughter was interrupted by an incoming priority message from Earth Command. Drake opened it to find a single line of text. Excellent work. By the way, request denied for additional funding for 11-dimensional particle cannon research. Nice try, though. Drake sighed and made a note to tell Dr. Patel they'd have to come up with a more believable name for next quarter's funding requests. Maybe something simple, like recursive space-time manipulation studies. After all, the best part about being human wasn't just coming up with impossible ideas. It was convincing everyone else that they were possible, just long enough to make them second-guess everything they thought they knew about what humans could do. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a Vraxian admiral was trying very hard to explain to his superiors why he had retreated from what sensor logs would later show was a perfectly ordinary small fleet of human ships. But nobody believed him. They were too busy trying to figure out how to fold space. With all due respect, High Strategist, the hive mind's representative chittered nervously. But are you absolutely certain about this analysis? High Strategist Zixka of the Greater Collective examined the quantum-encrypted data packet again, all 6 of their primary sensor clusters pulsing with barely contained excitement. The Vraxians' sensor logs don't lie, Representative Kurt. The humans have somehow mastered dimensional manipulation on a scale that should be impossible. And if we can't do it, then we must steal it, Kurt finished, their antennae twitching in understanding. But surely the humans will have unprecedented security measures around such technology. That's the beautiful part. Zixka's bioluminescent patches flickered with amusement. According to our deep cover agents, they keep their most sensitive research in the most unassuming location possible. A facility they call Community College. Someone tried to break into where? Captain Alexandra Drake of the EFS Mobius nearly choked on her coffee. The Advanced Papercraft Studio at Des Moines Community College, Commander Martinez repeated, struggling to maintain a straight face. Apparently they were convinced it was a front for our Space Origami Research Division. Drake set down her coffee mug, counted to 10 in Standard, then counted to 20 in Vraxian just to be thorough. Please tell me you're joking. I wish. The would-be infiltrators were caught when they tried to enroll in Introduction to Origami using obviously fake credentials. The instructor got suspicious when one of them kept insisting that knowing how to fold a paper crane was vital to galactic security. So let me get this straight. Drake pinched the bridge of her nose. After our little bluff with the Vraxians, which has now been dubbed the Origami Incident in diplomatic circles, someone actually believed we were hiding our supposedly revolutionary space-folding technology in a community college art class? To be fair, Martinez offered, it's exactly the kind of thing we would do if we were trying to hide something important. Before Drake could respond, her comm panel chimed with an urgent message from Earth Command. The text scrolling across her screen made her eyebrows climb steadily higher. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Sir? Command wants us to... She paused, rereading the message to make sure she hadn't suddenly developed space madness. Deliberately leak information suggesting that the community college incident was a successful counterintelligence operation to protect our real research facilities. Martinez blinked. They want us to convince everyone that we convinced someone to try to steal fake secrets so they wouldn't find our real fake secrets? Welcome to the wonderful world of multidimensional chess, Commander. Only in this case, it's multidimensional origami. Drake stood up from her desk, straightening her uniform. Get the senior staff together. If we're going to double bluff the entire galaxy, we might as well do it properly. 3 days later, aboard the Hive Mind's primary intelligence vessel. Silent whisper. The humans are clearly playing games with us, High Strategist Zixka announced to their assembled analysts. The community college infiltration attempt was obviously meant to fail. They wanted us to think their secrets were hidden there. But sir, one analyst ventured, if we know it was meant to fail, and they know we know it was meant to fail, then clearly the real research is being conducted somewhere even more obvious. Zixka's sensory clusters pulsed triumphantly. We must expand our search to every human institution that teaches the art of folding, libraries, elementary schools, senior centers. In the back of the room, a junior analyst leaned over to their colleague. Is it just me, or are we starting to overthink this? Meanwhile, in the Mobius's main conference room, the good news, Lieutenant Commander Patel reported, is that 17 different species are now convinced we have super advanced folding technology. The bad news is that 3 of them have started trying to recreate it. How is that bad news? Drake asked. Because they're actually making progress. Patel brought up a holographic display showing several technical diagrams. The Arcturians have already figured out how to fold a shuttle into 9-dimensional space. It exploded spectacularly. But still, they're getting closer to doing something we only pretended we could do. So what you're saying, Martinez interjected, is that we accidentally convinced our potential adversaries to develop an impossible technology, and now they're starting to succeed? Pretty much, yes. Drake stared at the technical readouts for a long moment before starting to laugh. Oh, this is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Sir? Don't you see? We don't have to actually develop space-folding technology anymore. We can just wait for someone else to perfect it, then act like we had it all along. She grinned. After all, who's going to question that we had the technology first when we're the ones who gave them the idea? That's actually brilliant, Martinez admitted. But what do we do in the meantime? Oh, that's the easy part. Drake's grin turned decidedly wicked. We're going to start taking origami classes, very publicly. And every time someone asks us about space-folding technology, we're going to smile mysteriously and make paper cranes. 1 month later, at the Galactic Security Council. And in conclusion, the Arcturian representative finished. We demand that the humans share their space-folding technology in the interest of galactic peace. The human representative, a remarkably composed woman in a crisp diplomatic uniform, simply smiled and pulled out a sheet of paper. With practiced movements, she began folding it into an intricate shape. What are you doing? The Arcturian demanded. Oh, just a little origami, she replied casually. Would you like to learn? We offer classes every Tuesday and Thursday. Beginners welcome. The Arcturian representative's color-shifting skin cycled through 17 shades of frustration before settling on a mottled purple of barely contained rage. In the observation gallery, 3 different species intelligence agents frantically took notes on her folding technique. Back aboard the Mobius, Drake was reviewing the latest intelligence reports when Martinez entered her ready room. You're going to love this, he announced. The hive mind just established a Department of Terrestrial Paper Manipulation Studies. They've assigned their top scientists to analyze the cultural significance of fortune tellers and paper footballs. Please tell me someone got pictures of hive mind researchers trying to make paper footballs. Better. We got video. It's already gone viral on the Galactic Net. Drake leaned back in her chair, savoring the moment. You know what the funniest part is? If anyone ever figures out that we were bluffing about the whole space-folding thing, we can just point to all the progress everyone else made trying to reverse engineer our technology and claim we knew they'd do that. So we pretended to have impossible technology, knowing it would drive our competitors to develop it themselves, thereby giving us access to the very technology we were pretending to have in the first place? Martinez shook his head admiringly. That's either brilliant or insane. Why not both? Drake picked up a piece of paper from her desk and began folding it absently. After all, the best part about being human isn't just making the impossible possible. It's getting everyone else to do the hard work for you. And the paper crane you're making? Oh, this? She held up the finished origami. This is just to mess with the surveillance devices I'm sure are watching us right now. Wave hello to the hive mind, Commander. Somewhere in deep space, a very frustrated surveillance analyst watched as 2 human officers spent the next 20 minutes making increasingly elaborate paper aircraft and sailing them across the ready room. They took very detailed notes just in case it was significant. It probably was, they reasoned. After all, nothing humans did was ever this simple. Right? I believe, the Vraxian ambassador declared with as much dignity as he could muster, that you have been, as humans say, trolling the entire galaxy. Captain Alexandra Drake maintained her best poker face as she sat across from the ambassador in the Mobius's diplomatic suite. I'm sure I don't know what you mean, Ambassador Carell. We've been completely transparent about our origami research program. Transparent? Carell's exoskeleton shifted through several shades of exasperation. Your species has somehow convinced half the galaxy to pour massive resources into folding things into impossible shapes, turned paper crafts into a matter of galactic security, and caused 3 separate espionage incidents at Earth's craft supply stores. Not our fault that Michaels had a buy-one-get-one sale on cardstock, Drake replied serenely. Though I have to admit, watching hive mind operatives try to use coupons was pretty entertaining. Before Carell could respond, Commander Martinez burst into the room with a distinctly harried expression. Captain, we have a situation. The Arcturians. They've done it. Drake's composure cracked slightly. Done what? They actually managed to fold a ship into 4-dimensional space. Successfully. Martinez paused. Mostly successfully. There's still some debate about where the cargo bay ended up, but the important parts are all there. Probably. Carell's secondary eyes widened. But that's impossible. You were bluffing about the whole thing, weren't you? Drake stared at the report Martinez had handed her, then at the increasingly agitated Vraxian ambassador, then back at the report. Finally, she did the only thing a capable starship captain could do in such a situation. She started laughing. Meanwhile, in the Arcturian Science Ministry, esteemed colleagues, Chief Researcher Valthor announced proudly, we have successfully replicated what we believe to be fictional human technology. The question now becomes, what do we do with this achievement? We could revolutionize space travel, one scientist suggested. Advance our understanding of dimensional physics, offered another. Or, a junior researcher piped up, we could use it to really mess with the humans. The room fell silent as everyone considered this option. Elaborate, Valthor commanded, suddenly very interested. Back aboard the Mobius. Let me see if I understand this correctly. Drake addressed her senior staff. The Arcturians have not only successfully developed actual space-folding technology based on our completely made-up capabilities. Yes, Martinez confirmed, but they're now using it exclusively to perform increasingly elaborate pranks? They folded an entire cruiser into what they claim is a perfect replica of a paper airplane, Lieutenant Commander Patel reported. Then they flew it past the Sol system's outer markers while broadcasting "Is this what you meant?" on all frequencies. Drake pinched the bridge of her nose. So we accidentally sparked an arms race that turned into a practical joke competition? To be fair, her tactical officer offered, that's probably the most human outcome possible. And now the hive mind is demanding we prove we had the technology first by engaging in what they're calling a space origami duel? They've already selected their champion, Martinez confirmed. Apparently, they've had their best minds studying ancient Earth videos of paper airplane competitions. Drake was quiet for a long moment. Then a slow smile spread across her face, the kind of smile that had preceded some of humanity's most audacious moments of improvised brilliance. Get me Earth Command, she ordered. And someone find me every origami expert we can convince to sign an NDA. If the galaxy wants a show, we're going to give them one they'll never forget. 3 weeks later, in neutral space, the gathered representatives of 17 species watched in varying states of anticipation, confusion, and existential dread as human and hive mind vessels prepared for what would later be known as the Great Folding. This is either going to be the greatest breakthrough in interstellar relations, Ambassador Carell muttered to his aide, or the most elaborate practical joke in human history. Why not both? A human diplomat nearby offered cheerfully. We do our best work when we're simultaneously advancing science and having fun with it. The hive mind vessel moved first, its hull shimmering as it began to fold into what appeared to be a remarkably accurate representation of a traditional Earth paper crane, if paper cranes were several kilometers long and armed with plasma cannons. A collective gasp went through the observation fleet. All eyes turned to the human vessel. Captain Drake stood on her bridge, surrounded by a team of Earth's finest origami artists, now doubling as spatial folding consultants. Dr. Patel, she called out. Is the holographic array ready? Yes, Captain. Though I still think this is insane. Of course it's insane. We're about to convince the galaxy that paper folding is the key to dimensional engineering. Drake grinned. And the best part? By the time anyone figures out what really happened, they'll have actually developed the technology we pretended to have. And our response to the hive mind's demonstration? Drake's grin widened. Show them what humanity does best. Improvise, adapt, and make everyone else question their sanity. What followed would be debated in scientific circles for decades. The Mobius appeared to fold itself into a series of increasingly impossible shapes, each one more elaborate than the last. Whether this was achieved through actual dimensional manipulation, extremely advanced holography, or what one Vraxian observer described as sheer audacity given physical form remained a matter of heated discussion. The display ended with the Mobius, seemingly transforming into a perfect replica of what humans would recognize as a paper football, complete with a trajectory that sent it sailing between two surprised hive mind support vessels. In the aftermath, did we just turn dimensional engineering into a competitive sport? Martinez asked as they watched the various diplomatic vessels depart. Better, Drake replied. We just ensured that every major power in the galaxy will spend the next decade trying to outdo each other in developing technology we claim to have. And they'll be having so much fun competing, they won't even mind. And when they realize we didn't actually have the technology in the first place? Oh, that's the best part. Drake held up a simple paper crane. By then, humans will have learned enough from everyone else's research to actually do it. And since it was our idea first, they'll assume we knew it was possible all along, Martinez finished. shaking his head in admiration. You know, sometimes I think the greatest human achievement isn't our technology or our adaptability. Oh? It's our ability to turn anything, even a galactic technology race, into an elaborate game that everyone wants to play. As if to prove his point, an urgent message arrived from Earth Command. The Arcturians are challenging us to something they're calling Extreme Multi-Dimensional Origami Championships. Please advise on appropriate response. P.S. Several admirals have already volunteered to judge. Drake read the message and laughed. Tell them we accept, of course, and get me the number for that origami instructor at Des Moines Community College. Something tells me their enrollment is about to skyrocket. Somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of the Galactic Security Council, a new department was being formed. The Bureau of Competitive Dimensional Engineering and Paper Arts. Its first official act was to establish regulations for the safe practice of zero-gravity origami. Its second was to ban humanity from competing in the junior leagues, just to be fair to everyone else. Welcome to the inaugural Galactic Dimensional Engineering Championships! The announcer's voice boomed across the vast space arena. Coming to you live from the neutral Epsilon sector, where species from across known space have gathered to compete in what many are calling the Origami Olympics. Captain Alexandra Drake watched from the judges' platform as the various competitors made their final preparations. The Mobius hung in space nearby, officially serving as Earth's technical support vessel, but primarily there to ensure things didn't get too out of hand. I still can't believe this is actually happening, Commander Martinez muttered beside her. We've turned a bluff about fake technology into the galaxy's biggest sporting event. The best part? Drake replied quietly. The Arcturians just published their latest research findings. Turns out all this competitive folding has actually advanced dimensional physics by about 2 centuries. And nobody suspects we didn't have the technology in the first place? Oh, they suspect. They just can't prove it. And at this point, I don't think they care anymore. They're having too much fun. The first event was about to begin. The Small Craft Transformation Division. A hive mind shuttle immediately took the lead by folding itself into what appeared to be a perfect Mobius strip, earning gasps from the crowd. Not bad, Drake commented, but wait until they see what the Earth team has planned. The human shuttle, piloted by a former origami instructor who'd been recruited directly from Des Moines Community College, began its routine. What followed was either a masterpiece of dimensional engineering or the galaxy's most elaborate illusion. Possibly both. Is that shuttle doing the Macarena? Martinez asked incredulously. With a twist, Drake confirmed. Literally. Watch this next part. The shuttle proceeded to fold through several impossible configurations while maintaining what was unmistakably a synchronized dance routine. The crowd went wild. In the competitors' ready room, the Earth team was preparing for the next event when an urgent message arrived from their Vraxian rivals. They're accusing us of cheating, Lieutenant Park, their lead engineer, reported. Apparently they found our secret training facility. You mean the Senior Center craft room? Drake asked. No, the other one. The kindergarten where we've been holding advanced folding workshops. Ah. Drake considered this for a moment. Send them an invitation to next week's class. We're doing pop-up books. Captain, I don't think they're going to... Park paused as another message came through. They want to know if there's still space in the beginners group. The competition continued with the Capital Ship Division, where vessels larger than small moons attempted to fold themselves into increasingly improbable shapes. The Arcturian entry managed the impressive transformation into something resembling a traditional Japanese lantern. The hive mind's flagship turned itself into what they claimed was a perfect representation of a human paper football, though the proportions were slightly off. Then came the Earth team's turn. Are we sure about this? Martinez asked as their vessel began its routine. The practice runs were a bit unpredictable. That's what makes it fun, Drake replied. Besides, Dr. Patel assures me there's only a 12% chance of accidentally creating a temporal paradox this time. What followed would later be described in official reports as technically impressive and unofficial reports as absolutely bonkers. The Earth vessel appeared to fold itself through several dimensions not previously known to exist, briefly resembled a swan made of pure mathematics, and finished by turning into what appeared to be a perfect replica of a child's hand-drawn spacecraft, crayon marks included. The judges needed 3 hours and 2 new physics textbooks to calculate the score. Breaking news from the championships! The announcer's voice was practically vibrating with excitement. The Vraxian team has just proposed a new event for next year's competition. Synchronized space folding. They're already building a training facility, which will apparently be disguised as a public library's craft corner. In the Earth team's ready room, Drake was reviewing the latest proposals for new competitive categories. Let's see. Extreme origami parkour, four-dimensional paper airplane distance championships, and quantum napkin folding? She looked up at Martinez. When did napkin folding become a quantum event? Tuesday, I think. The Hive Mind's research division got carried away during lunch. Before Drake could respond, another urgent message arrived, this time from Earth Command. "Oh, this is rich," she laughed after reading it. "Apparently, several major powers have proposed making dimensional engineering an official Olympic sport for the 2156 Games. They want to know if we'll host the qualifiers." Where would we even hold something like that? Drake's smile turned mischievous. "I hear the Des Moines Community College Gymnasium is available." The award ceremony was a sight to behold. Representatives from 17 species stood proudly as medals were distributed for achievements in everything from most innovative use of non-Euclidean geometry to best interpretation of traditional Earth origami in 5 or more dimensions. The Earth team had managed to secure several top positions, though the judges were still arguing about whether their final performance should be classified as engineering or performance art. "You know what the really impressive part is?" Martinez commented as they watched the ceremony. "All this competition has actually led to real breakthroughs in space travel, energy generation, and dimensional physics." "Of course it has," Drake replied. "Nothing motivates scientific progress like trying to win a contest, especially when there's a chance to show up the humans who started it all. And the fact that we started it with technology we didn't actually have. Ancient history." Drake waved dismissively. "Besides, thanks to everyone else's research, we're actually developing it now. Sometimes the best way to achieve the impossible is to convince everyone else it's already been done." As if to prove her point, the Arcturian team chose that moment to demonstrate their latest achievement. A perfect fusion of origami principles and quantum mechanics that turned their flagship into what appeared to be a working replica of the paper fortune tellers beloved by Earth schoolchildren. The fact that it could apparently predict stock market trends was, they insisted, purely coincidental. Later that evening, as the various teams celebrated at what would go down in history as the galaxy's first multi-dimensional after-party, Drake received one final message from Earth Command. "Congratulations on successful competition. P.S. Did you really need to teach the hive mind how to make paper airplanes? Their entire diplomatic corps is now obsessed with holding distance competitions during formal negotiations." Drake smiled as she composed her reply. "Recommend installing recycling bins in all diplomatic chambers. Also, suggest adding paper airplane trajectory calculation to standard diplomatic training. P.S. Wait until they discover finger football." Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a Vraxian science vessel was already practicing for next year's championships. Their current project, figuring out how to fold a cruiser into a shape that could play rock, paper, scissors. They were pretty sure the humans had already done it, and were just waiting for the right moment to reveal it. They were wrong, of course. The humans were planning something much more elaborate involving cat's cradle and quantum entanglement. After all, why stop at folding space when you could teach the galaxy to play? To be continued.